Cheers. Good afternoon. Welcome to, I think, the first video of 2024, and in it, we are talking book series. I used to go into the first book of a series very naively assuming that the series would be completed in a timely manner. And that, my friends, not what always happens. So let me tell you, there is some reluctance on my part to get involved in a series occasionally, and I sometimes will totally withhold on even starting it until it's completed or there's only a couple books left. Because I have been burned, as I'm sure you have as well. And so this video is not about 24 series that I'm actively reading or 24 series that I'm going to read. It's a bit of a mishmash. Mishmash? What is that saying? Mishmash, right? M-I-S-H-M-A-S-H? Mishmash? Okay, anyways, whatever. So these are some series that I'm interested in, some that I have started and need to complete, some that I'm totally caught up on, and then I do have 2 series that I will not be continuing with anymore. And I believe altogether I'm talking about 24. So hence the title, 24 book series in 2024. I would love to know what your feelings are on series. Are you totally fine with just getting started on one when the first book is published? Do you, like me, sometimes hold back and think, let's see if we can get a couple out in a timely manner? Or do you avoid series at all costs? Because it can be a lot of dedication sometimes to put into a series, particularly ones that are, and I have a couple on this list, more than 10 books long. That is crazy, and yet we mostly seem to love them. So on that note, let's get started with, I think, 3 really long series, none of which I have completed, all of which hopefully one day I will. The first is The Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. I have only read the first book of this series, The Way of Kings. I enjoyed it. It did take me a couple of tries to get through it, but I think that was just me and kind of what I was in the mood for. I do hope to at least get to the second book of this series this year. I think that there are 4 or 5 out and it's supposed to be a 10-book series, so I have got time. Before this is done, I don't need to rush to catch up on anything, and it's one that I think I'll just slowly pick away at over time. Second, and this is a series that I've kind of hum and haw about whether or not I'm going to complete. I used to be very good about staying up to date on the newest publications, and that is the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon. How many books are there in that one right now? So it's supposed to also be a 10-book series. I think I have read 7. I think. I would honestly, but I would need to do a whole reread. I reread Outlander 2 years ago, and last year started to read Drums of Autumn, which I believe is the second book, but I only had it in audio form, and I can't listen. I just don't like fiction in audio form. I can't listen to it, particularly when you get to more sexy scenes and like the narrator of the voice. It gives me the cringe. I can't do it. But it is a series that I used to really, really enjoy. It's definitely one of the first more adult series I ever read. And so I do think it's one that I would like to catch up on, but I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm hoping to maybe put Drums of Autumn on my waitlist at the library, and if I can do like 1 or 2 a year, I would be pretty content with that. But also maybe I just really get into the zone and start reading them one after the other. I used to own most of these books. They are books that over the years have gotten culled, so I don't, unfortunately, anymore. But I think it's one that at some point I would like to catch up on. And finally, in terms of just big mammoth series, The Eye of the World, The Wheel of Time. I think it's the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. I read the first 2 books of this one last year, really enjoyed it, and I hope to get to the 3rd at some point in the near-ish future. Again, just this big epic fantasy. I think there are like 13 or 14 books on this one, and it's going to take me some time to get through it, but I am quite excited about that one. Let's stick with the series that I either am caught up on or have finished that I think are worth people's time. We have the Clay Edison series by Jonathan and Jesse Kellerman. This follows a man who is a forensic scientist? No, he's a coroner, and he does investigations, and it takes place in the Bay Area. There are, I believe, 3 out, and a 4th one is coming out in 2024. It's just a kind of a detective novel. You have to like crime detective novels to enjoy this one, but he's not a detective, he's a coroner. I really liked it. I also started reading it while I lived in the Bay Area, so I found that kind of interesting. But that is one that I'm enjoying and will keep on top of. In terms of other crime series, the Frida Klein series by Nikki French, which I believe is 7 books. I read that complete series pretty quickly 2 years ago now, I think. And you're following Frida Klein, who is a psychoanalyst or something. She's kind of like a psychologist, but it's different. I don't remember exactly what her title is. And she gets pulled into all these crimes. The cops start to rely on her for her analysis of people's behaviors. And then there is a theme. Each book, for the first part, kind of stands on its own a little bit with its own crime. But then as the series progresses, there is a main criminal mastermind that really takes over. And it's quite interesting. I really enjoyed this series. I was slightly let down by the last book because it brought in some new characters, and I hate when new characters are brought in at the last moment. And so that for me wasn't my favorite, but it is a very popular series and I thoroughly enjoy it. And if you like kind of the crime sort of novel, but your focus is not on a detective, it's very, very good. There is a John Graham series out there, the Jake Brigance series, and it is about a lawyer. And so obviously, again, I got the crime aspect of it and the cases that he needs to defend or prosecute. I really enjoyed this series. I've read 3 of 4 so far, so I'm not too far behind. I think the 4th book is a fairly new-ish release, but it's one that I kind of forget about sometimes because they do tend to stand on their own. Other crime, very light crime, is the Thursday Murder Club books by Richard Osman. Follows a group of people who live in a senior's home and they solve mysteries and murders, and I really enjoy this. It's definitely part of the kind of cozy crime genre. It's fantastic. People love it. It's worth the hype. Definitely pick it up. There are 4 books out for now. And he is taking a bit of a break from this series to write another series that I will also read. But the series is not complete. It's just been put a little bit on the back burner, but you're not left on huge cliffhangers or anything. So you can definitely catch up and it would be okay. You're not going to be waiting around twiddling your thumbs, just like aching for this author to keep writing the series. It's okay that there's a bit of a break between the books. There is also the Suburban Dicks series by Fabian Nicieza? Is that how you spell his name? I'm not pronouncing his last name properly, and I looked up the pronunciation of it today. Nicieza, I think, something like that. And he writes, it's about a woman and a man. They aren't in a relationship or anything, they're just kind of partners. And she wanted to work for the FBI. She is now basically like a stay-at-home mom, and they get together and they start kind of solving these mysteries. There are 2. I have no idea what the plan for this is in the future, but they are standalones. You don't need to worry about the story continuing on. So it's totally fine that there's a break between the books. And I really enjoyed this one. It was just kind of quirky and different. Kind of definitely a little bit more. Okay. They're a bit more in the cozy genre side of things, but they're still very compelling and I really liked them. We now have a couple of series that I am totally caught up on and I am just waiting for them to continue. One is, of no surprise to anybody who's been around here for a bit, the Bone Season series by Samantha Shannon. Any day now, I'm ready for it. But also the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. Had I known when I started how long it would be, I never would have started this series, quite honestly. I had no idea that there were like years and years between books, and somebody recommended the first one to me and I liked it, read the second one, and then realized we're all going to be waiting for eternity for this series to finish up. So that's a bit of a bummer. Speaking of Samantha Shannon, though, she does have her Roots of Chaos series that is on my list of priorities to read this year. I own the first 2 books of that, and I haven't read them yet. So that is something that I will hopefully be getting to in the next couple of months. I'm actually quite excited about it because I do love Samantha Shannon's writing and her world building. So as much as it irritates me, I will be reading that, and that is a series that I hope to love as much as I love the Bone Season. I love this mug so much. Today's drink of choice is a peppermint hot chocolate. You can do it several ways. Make hot chocolate however you want. I have previously used pieces of candy cane and melted it, or just peppermint extract works. You just have to be light-handed. In this case, I used peppermint baking chips and just melted it in the milk as I was making the hot chocolate, and then lessened the amount of sugar I was putting in. Love it. In terms of series that are a little different, there are a couple of thriller series that I think I would like to get to. One is the series by Sarah Pierce, and it starts with the Sanitarium, Sanitarium, I believe, and the second one is The Retreat. I remember reading the Sanitarium. I think I would have to at least reread the synopsis to remember where I'm at, but I think it's definitely one that I would like to look at, along with Frida McFadden's Housemaid series. I've heard really good things about that. I don't know that I've read anything by Frida McFadden before, but I feel like if I enjoyed the series, she has so many books, it would be nice to have a thriller author I could go back to a little bit and know that I'm getting a good book. So those are 2 more thrillery series that I'm definitely hoping to get to this year. We also have the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. This is all over the place. People absolutely adore this book, and I am on hold for the first book of this series. I've been on hold for about a month now. I was supposed to do it for my Read a Book for Every Booktuber I Follow series that I did in December, but it never came in, so it was never an option for me. But it is one that I'm very excited and happy to get to, and I will hopefully be able to tell you all about it when it finally comes. There are 3 series that are actually totally completed that I hope to get to in the coming months, years. I'm not really sure. Again, there's no timeline on these. They're just ones that are definitely on my radar and I would like to see if I would enjoy it. One is the Wolf Den series by Elodie Smith. The Wolf Den trilogy by Elodie Harper. And this is completed. I actually don't remember exactly what it's about. It is a historical fiction series, but I remember seeing it in the library a couple years ago, picking it up and really wanting to grab it, but then realizing it was the first of a trilogy and thinking, I'm not doing this to myself, I'll wait and see what happens with the rest of it. And I believe that the series is now done. So I love a good historical fiction. Give me a trilogy any day of the week when it's complete, and I'll be there for it. Speaking of historical fiction, the Ken Follett Kingsbridge series is fantastic. The first 3 were definitely the strongest. The 4th book was okay, but the history that he gets and the research that goes into his books, I love them so much, and it covers such a wide expanse of time and characters. He's just brilliant in his historical fiction, and that's a series that I would absolutely say if you're into that type of book, you need to read, and if you haven't already, it's absolutely one that is worth the effort because they are pretty big books, but they're brilliant. We have a completed Jane Harper series. It starts with The Dry. They're like the Aaron Falk series or something like that. And I actually think that I've read The Dry, but I don't remember it. And I also obviously had no idea it was part of a series because I'm pretty sure I liked it. So it is like, is it a sci-fi mystery thriller or something like that? I'm not totally sure, but it is one that I hope to pick up, and I think I can get fairly easily at my library, which is always a nice thing. Kate Moss has a 16th century historical fiction about the Joubert family or something like that, and I've never read from Kate Moss, but I've seen her come up several times and she just had a book come out that sounds really interesting, but I think you should read some of her stuff in order. Anyways, it's historical fiction, 16th century, and like I said, I love a really good historical fiction series, so she is somebody that people seem to really, really enjoy, and I've never read from her. She's an author that I'm hoping I love, because then she has a pretty extensive backlist that I'd be able to get through over time, and that makes me very happy. That is another series that is certainly one that I think I'll have to put some time into because I don't think they're very small. I think they're pretty big books, but that's okay. I enjoy a big book. Okay, we are getting to closer to the end of this list than the beginning. Let's talk about a series that I've finished, I loved, and if you want to read just a fun series, go ahead and do it. It's The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This isn't something that I would normally recommend. It is a YA. I just love it. It's one of my favorite YA series. I read it several years ago. I've read it 3 or 4 times since. It's just fun. It's got magic, it's got friendship, it's got found family, it's got love, it's got everything, but it isn't romance heavy by any means. Maggie doesn't really write romance heavy. This series is not romance heavy. I lied. She does have a series that is pretty love heavy, but this is not that series. It's more about friendship and finding magic, literally finding magic, and I absolutely love it. If you want something that's just easy and fun, The Raven Boys cycle. It's a quartet. There are 4 books, and I absolutely adore it. There is the Ernest Cunningham series, which is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Somebody, and there's a new one that just came out, Everyone on This Train is a Suspect or something, by Benjamin Stevenson. And I picked up the first book of this series not knowing it was going to be a series, and I stopped reading it when I realized that it was, even though I was really enjoying it. But now that I know the second book is out, means the series is hopefully progressing at a decent time, I will pick it up again. Ali Smith's Seasonal Quartet is on the list. This has been on my radar for a very long time, but I can never get my hands on Autumn, which I believe is the first one. I don't think you need to read these in order. They're interconnected in ways, but I would prefer to read them in order. So they are just a series of books that I have not been able to get to yet, but continue to show up on my, would really like to for a couple of years now, and hopefully finally I can try to prioritize actually getting to this series of books. And the last series that I would like to get through is the second Handmaid's Tale, The Testaments. I read The Handmaid's Tale later in 2023. It was one of my favorite books of the year. I absolutely loved it. I'm gonna have to read the second. I can't imagine that it'll stand up to The Handmaid's Tale, but you better believe I'm gonna give it a shot. In terms of series that have not stood up over the test of time, 2 that I am DNFing, I'm done. One is like, it's this little, it's not little, it's really long. It's a romance series. It's the Like Us series by Krista and Becca Ritchie. It's not really my jam, but I was just enjoying having something kind of stupid and fluffy to read. Let's not say stupid. Just light and fluffy to read. But I can't continue on. It's so repetitive. It got to be way too much. It's a bodyguard series, a bodyguard romance series. And like there's this group of bodyguards that protects this family, and one of the things is, don't date, you can't date each other, and then obviously ultimately it looks like everybody ends up dating a bodyguard. Which it just got to be way too repetitive, so I'm putting that series aside. I don't think that I'll be going back to it. The last series I'm DNFing is the Chief Inspector Gamache series, the 3 Pines series by Louise Penny. I really tried with this one because it's long and it's got quite the following. It's got a TV show. I couldn't get, the writing was really dry. I wasn't a fan of the characters. Something just didn't mesh well, but it is a really popular crime series. So again, if crime series is your thing, then this could definitely be something worth checking out. You should note that it did start being published quite a while ago, so there are some slightly old-fashioned ways of looking at things that you kind of just have to work yourself around, and I don't mind doing that, but there needs to be something more really compelling to keep me from, kind of just like working around that, and I didn't find that this story was doing that for me, so I think I read the first 2, and I'm gonna call it quits on that. But there you have it. 24 book series for 2024, some that I hope to get to, some that I finished, some that I'm very frustrated with, and maybe there's a couple here that you might want to check out on your own. But if you have a favorite series, if I've mentioned any, if you have any insight on any of the ones that I've mentioned, let me know below. No spoilers, please. And I will definitely take what you have to say into consideration, because I don't want to waste my time if it's not worth it. But that being said, I think I've probably mentioned a couple that I think you should maybe consider wasting your time on. Anyways, I am going to finish my drink and I'm going to have a lovely afternoon, and I hope you do too. I will see you in the next video. Bye.